Great to have everybody here and welcome. My name is John Bartel. I'm a senior customer success engineer with ShareFile. And just like Delia said, we're going to be going over getting started with ShareFile, just some good basics and good to know and getting started with ShareFile. I've been a customer success engineer with ShareFile for just about 2 years now. This is a great position that we've just introduced and helps, of course, clients like you and users like you to really just get the best out of ShareFile. So I've been with ShareFile/Citrix for about 7 years now. And been anywhere from support to pre-sales to now customer success engineer. So I'm going to let Greg introduce himself and we'll get started.
Yeah, thank you, John. Hey, everybody. My name is Greg Horrocks. I'm also a customer success engineer here at ShareFile. On the newer side, I've been with ShareFile for about 7 months, but I'm really excited to be here and help you guys get started.
Before we demo, I just wanted to showcase what we're going to go over today, a bit of the basics, but again, this is very good knowledge if it's somebody that is just starting out with ShareFile, or hey, I just got into a company and they're using ShareFile. I need to understand a little bit about it. This is actually really for you. So as you see, we're going to go through some logging in, how to find, of course, your account, a couple things more about just the dashboard in general and how files and data get stored within ShareFile. And then we're going to go across how to create a share link and how to also request a share or create a requested share link. This is going to help you, of course, get started with ShareFile in terms of collaborating with your users or your clients or whoever you're going to be working with. And then I'm going to pass that over to Greg, where we're going to talk a little bit about folders, folder structures, how to add people to folders with data that's in it, and then get a little bit on topic about what makes a client, an employee, and an administrator within ShareFile. And then finally get into some of the settings, the different applications that we use. We're going to mainly focus on the web interface side of today, but we do have other applications that you can use to work with ShareFile in your account. And then finally, Greg is going to go over some of the resource centers, stuff that's really important for you to kind of continue your education with ShareFile, and also, of course, attend some of these events later on that might keep you in the know of what is most interested in your realm. Let's get to the demo. Let's get into the nuts and bolts here of today. And the first thing we're going to go over is how we actually log in the ShareFile. Again, you might be new. You might just say, hey, I was told that I have ShareFile account, but I'm not too sure how to log in, where to find your domain to access it or your URL to access it through the web. So let's talk about that really quickly. So first off, every account's going to have a unique subdomain. And basically your subdomain, as you can see here, what we're going to use today is ShareFile Rocks. And it's always followed by .sharefile.com. So if you're new to a company, it's typically the company name, or if it's something more personalized, it's a smaller company or more of a personal account, you might see that as being, again, a little bit more customizable based on your need. But if you don't have that login, the easiest way I would say to approach it is, first off, you always want to check your email mailbox or your mailbox where you got activated with your ShareFile account and look for the ShareFile welcome email. It should contain your activation link, and that activation link does contain the direct subdomain that you actually see up here, so that remember. But the best way I like to showcase is, move this over to the screen. There is a site where you can find your subdomain. If you go to secure.sharefile.com, it's first going to ask you for the subdomain, but of course we don't know our subdomain. So what you want to click on is don't know your account's subdomain. Once you click on that, you're going to use the email address that was used to actually create that account. That could most likely be your company email address that you want to use or what you do business with. And when you put that in, you're going to get a nice customizable email delivered to you, and it will showcase what association you have with that email address. And you see below, I have a couple associations here. I have things like, of course, ShareFile Rocks and my own personal one that I have. Across this, it could be that you have access to other ShareFile accounts, but it should at least list which ones you do have access to. And you kind of narrow that down a bit. And you could simply click on that, and then that will lead you, of course, to the page that we actually see now with your login. So just real quickly on the login side, you'll see off to the left, you'll have an employee login. This is typically if you're using something called single sign-on with your company to be able to log in with your account, makes it a little more seamless. Or on the right-hand side, you'll be using your direct login with ShareFile, which most likely is going to happen for the most use cases, at least for today, that we're going to make as an example. So today, we're just going to log in with my account. I'll use my actual cloud account here. And when I get in, usually what happens is as an employee, you're going to have a multi-factor authentication or MFA set up on your account. So that typically is set up usually with text or voice, or you can use one of our authenticator apps. I think if we have some time, Greg will actually showcase that as well. But today I'm just going to enter my verification code, and that's going to be through text. And once I have that, I can start putting it in. And I can always trust this computer. This is also very good because it should remember your authentication through MFA if you check that. And once I verify, oh, looks like I have to go back because I left this sit a little too long. So let me come back here, re-enter that. And we'll get right back into things. There we go. Now I've already done my MFA. I should be presented right into my dashboard. And this is what every user should see. They should be pretty familiar with their dashboard. I won't talk too much about what each one entails, but these are pretty straightforward. Your recent files or anything that you've accessed recently, you've uploaded or opened up within ShareFile. As you can see here, I have some Word docs and some Excel sheets. You have some shortcuts here, which we'll come back to that. Most prominently, we're going to talk about creating a share link and a request link today. And then some tutorials. These are great to take a look at. We're actually in the progress of updating these. And as you can see, you could drop those down and choose the different type of categories that we have for the actual tutorials there. But let's get started real fast here. When we talk about ShareFile, we're talking about collaboration. And with collaboration, we talk about folders. When we collaborate, we want to have users access folders where their data is there. Now, we can always kind of go through another means of just creating a direct share link and request link to send single files. But just to start out, we do have a couple of different categories of folders. First off, on the left, you're going to see personal folders and shared folders. Just to note, these both behave the same. I can create folders in here. I can share them out. I can put data in them, whatever which way you want to use it. But we separate these because it could be that in my personal folders, it might be something that I don't need to share out, but I keep them within ShareFile. So then, say for instance, I can actually click on one of these documents. I can preview the doc, and that remains in my personal folder. I don't necessarily need to share it out. I can if I wanted to, but this helps categorize some of your data that you're using in ShareFile. Versus your shared folders, these contain all the folders, including my own if I create them, of all the data that I have access to in these folders. So these are folders that people have shared to me or I have shared out to somebody else, okay? So again, just more so, it just depends on where you're going to put that data. You'll most likely live in the shared folder section more than anything, because again, you're going to be collaborating a lot more within these shared folders that somebody granted access for you to. One other main point I want to highlight today is the file box. A file box is a temporary space, and as you can see up here, we have a little blurb where you will actually upload data to, and that data will remain by default at 180 days. After 180 days, data in this folder will actually be deleted. Now, the file box is critical, and I'll show you this actually when I'm creating a request link, but a lot of our applications and the request link comes back to the file box by default. So again, it's a temporary space. It could be that you're just looking at a file, you just want to take a look at it, read through it or reshare it, or if you wanted to permanently move it over, when there's data in here, you can move that into a permanent folder under your shared folders or your personal folders. But I always like to talk about this because people get a little bit confused with it. Again, it's just a temporary space for data to upload to if you don't have a specific folder that you want to keep that data into. Might be, again, just something temporary that you need to look at and you don't mind it deleting after that period of time. Also, to inform you about a couple of different other things, when you first have your account, you might also see under people, you might have your address books. Address books are just that. It's basically a black book of people that you're communicating with or collaborating with on a regular basis. So these are usually users that are already in your ShareFile instance. As you can see here, I have a shared address book, and the shared address book are ones that I have either shared out with or somebody has shared with me. But you also have a personal address book. These are ones that, as you can see, I don't have any done here, but these are ones of a list of users that I collaborate with, but I haven't shared out to anybody else. These are great tools to actually kind of keep consistent with in terms of keeping, again, a list of people that you're constantly collaborating with. As you might know, I mean, after a year or so of collaborating with people, that tends to, of course, increase with time. And of course, it's a little harder sometimes to find who you're collaborating with on a regular basis. So address books are a nice touch to have and to kind of keep maintained over the period of time that you use ShareFile. All right, so let's jump back over to the dashboard because I want to get into the nitty-gritty of what ShareFile really does, and that's collaborating, sharing, and requesting files that you might need to work on within ShareFile. So let's first start out with creating a share. And this is just me creating a share. I'm not choosing a file from a folder or anything. I'm just sharing a file from here. And as you can see, I can either drag and drop something from my desktop, which I can easily do. I just drag and drop from desktop, put it in there, and it will upload. And by the way, if I did do that from the desktop, it's going to go to my file box by default. Because again, I'm not specifying a folder that's already within ShareFile for it to actually come from. But if I didn't want to do it from my computer, I can just choose from ShareFile. And I already have, say, a folder that, and let me actually choose a different folder here. Say I want to send this new hire confirmation Word doc that I have already established in ShareFile. I already uploaded that. And once I actually choose that, now, of course, as you can see, there are checkmark boxes. I could have chose multiple, which is fine. I can choose a whole folder if I really wanted to. But for this instance, I'm just choosing the one file. And if you did screw up, oh, you know, I wanted to add more, I can always choose that. And again, do it from your device or your desktop or from ShareFile. And then when I can continue, as you can see here, I can create a link directly, or I can send it through email. Just for this demonstration, and of course, to assure that we have enough time to go through everything, I'm just going to create a link from here. The email to specific people is great because this actually utilizes our built-in notification system. So it's just like sending out a regular email like you would through Outlook or Gmail, right? But for this instance, I'm just going to create a link. But first, before I create it, I want to go through some security settings. And within this link, I can set it so that this becomes a little bit more secure when I send this out. By default, and we actually just made this change, I should actually say down here, we just made this change so that if you want to actually first, what you want the person to actually do is either view, download, or edit. Edit requires a sign in because we're actually doing live editing to the document. So we do require them to sign in first to their ShareFile account. But down below here, we actually have it so that if you are requiring somebody to sign in, that's usually the first options. On this account, actually, I don't have any of the anonymous options down here, but in your situations, you might see where you have anonymous link, meaning you don't require that user to log in. It's just an anonymous link. I'm going to send that link out, and anyone could access what I'm sharing with them, that doc that I showed you before. But be more secure. You can have it so that if I'm sending it to another employee, I can have them sign in, or if it's also a client that's external, I can require them to sign into their account. Now, if they don't already have an account as a client, that will actually require them to activate an account with ShareFile, set their password up, their MFA, if that's required, and then they can access that link. But also, we also have the access expiration time, and this will expire the link after so long. I could always have this live forever if I wanted to, or I could choose a specific time, like say 30 days. After 30 days, the link I'm sharing is going to be expired and they can no longer access that link. It's not going to delete the data. It's just going to basically expire the link so no one else can actually access this. We have a couple other options down here is to add a watermark. It's not particularly for this getting started, but we do have watermarking capabilities to have an overlay onto your document. This helps prevent, again, other people taking photos of somebody that's receiving this file. You'll have a nice watermark on it so it knows it comes from, say, ShareFile and the person who sent it. And then you also have notify me when this link is accessed. This is great because anytime somebody accesses this link, me as the person initiating it will get notified by email to say that somebody has accessed it. And of course, if it's requiring that sign in, we're going to see who actually logged in to access that. So it's a good paper trail and to be able to audit that later on. So when I actually click create, you'll see down here, it'll create a unique link for me. And I can actually copy that, and I could use Messenger, like say Slack or some other messenger service or email outside of even ShareFile to paste that in. And then when the client actually goes to that, now I'm cheating a little bit because I'm skipping the actual requiring login, because as you saw, whenever I required them to log in first, but I'm already logged into my account. But once they do go past that initial login phase, they'll be able to access that link or that document that I shared. And remember, after that 30 days that I sent, no longer will they be able to actually do it. But if I did give them download rights, they could simply download that document. And as you saw, I did choose edit, so they can actually edit this document live. We do have other webinars that goes over live editing with Microsoft Office 365. So take a look at those if you're interested in doing some live co-editing. And that's it. Very simple. I was able to share a file with somebody. I was able to send that out. They were able to download, edit, whatever I would like them to do. And again, if I did make an oops on that link, I can always go back and edit those options and come back in here and set those options. Now, what if I needed something from somebody like Greg? How about if Greg had a document I needed to get from him? Instead of just sending an email, just asking, and then them attaching it, it may or may not get to you. We can request something from them. So as you see, remember, when I'm requesting a file, it always defaults to that file box. Remember, that's that temporary space. So I can always change that. So like, say, for instance, I had a client folder for Greg. I can put that under, say, for instance, he was customer 1. I can actually put that there. So any files he's going to upload to me are going to go and designate to that folder. Now, again, I can go through email if I wanted to send that request. But again, I'm just going to do get a link. You do have the edit options here. Same as before, I can require this to sign in, and I can also expire the link. And of course, the notification when Greg uploads that file for me through that link, I'll be notified that he uploaded it. But same as before, just like the share link, I can simply copy this unique URL and send that off to the client, or to Greg in this matter. And when he gets that, again, remember, I'm requiring him to log in to upload. But from here, I can then, Greg can then upload those files either by dragging and dropping or choosing it from his desktop and sending them over. Then I'll be notified of that upload. And remember, I chose that customer 1 folder. So once he's done uploading, I should see the files that he has uploaded, and it will actually specify the person that actually uploaded. As you see, like Greg as a client might actually show up as the creator itself. So that's it. That's as easy as it is in terms of creating a share link, getting a file out to collaborate with, or requesting a file. But let's talk a little bit more about folders. I'm going to pass this back over to Greg to talk a little bit more about folders and permissions. And instead of actually sending a share link or request link, we can work through a folder within ShareFile and give a user permission. Greg, I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right, thanks, John. I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you see my dashboard here?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. So creating a folder is pretty straightforward, just like creating a file. We're going to actually go right into our shared folders here. And to simply create a folder, we have a plus icon up here, and this is the root folder. So this is a permission. If you do have permission to create a folder in the root folder, this will be here. If you don't, you may have to drill down into another folder, but I have the permissions today. We're going to create a folder here. We'll go ahead and name the folder. And a couple of things we have here is we can add people directly to this folder. You can do that at any time. This is just during the initial creation. And we can also apply a template. So right now, the default setting is do not use a folder template. But if we wanted to use a template, which is basically a pre-organized hierarchy of folders that you want to apply to this folder, you can do that here. And I do have a webinar template folder that I'll show you how it looks. So storage zone is going to be default. We won't focus on that today, but we'll go ahead and say create folder. And as you can see here, the webinar folder that I just created already is populated with some folders. So that's that template I was talking about. So today we'll just focus on the folder itself. We have advanced webinars that go into templating, but that's the basic way to create a folder. Now you can do this a number of different ways through the web interface here. You can also use the ShareFile for Windows or Mac application to create folders as well. Also, if you're using the mobile application, you can do that there. So we'll look at the folder permissions here. So by default, I am set to the owner. I created this folder. It's going to give me all permissions. You can also see super users here. This is a group of users on your account that aren't necessarily account admins, but these are users that have access to all files and folders on an account. So we go into that in advanced webinars as well, but just know that super users have access to everything on the account. So I have full permissions here. We're going to add an external client here that I have. We'll take a look at some of the permissions. So I have an external user that I want to collaborate with. His name is Greg Client, and we have some permissions that we can give here. So view is pretty self-explanatory. It's only view. Download is going to be giving the ability to download that file from ShareFile to their local machine. Upload is going to be to upload files into this specific folder. And it also is kind of edit, because if you're uploading a file, if you upload the same file that already exists, it's basically creating another version of that. Deleting is being able to remove files. And then admin, I'll kind of show you this in just a second, but admin is going to be more advanced controls on that folder, typically not given to external clients. We've got a couple options here for folder alerts. You can set to email users when files are uploaded, and then you can notify this user when they've been added to a folder. This option here, apply settings to subfolders. That's going to basically take any folder underneath. So in this webinar folder, we've created a template. If that has folders underneath it, this will apply those down the chain in essence. And we'll kind of take a look at that here. Apply permissions to subfolders. This is in the People tab. This is a one-time application. So by default, when you create a subfolder, it's going to have inherited permissions from its parent folder. If you wanted to come in here and let's say you wanted to remove access to something underneath this, then you would apply permissions to subfolders, and it's going to trickle down into the folders underneath it. One thing I wanted to highlight, so when you're in a folder, right, and you want to create a folder, let's say you want to create a folder, but it's the same name, the system is actually going to warn you, and it's going to say that folder name already exists. Now, you might come across a situation where you've shared multiple folders with the same name, but they're in different locations. And you've shared these folders to external clients, and they have access to two folders with the same name, just in different locations. So what the system will actually do, and I'll switch over to my my client view. This is the client view here. If I have given access to two folders of the same name, what the system will actually do is it will keep one of the folder names just as its display name. The second folder here, you can see I have customer 1 and customer 1. The second one is going to actually give you the path. And so in our ShareFile rocks, we have some customer folders, And I have two customer one folders that I've actually given this client access to. And you can see here that it's changed the name of them just to distinguish between them. All right. And so moving on. So when we're talking about different users on an account, we've mentioned client users, we've mentioned employee users, and then we've also mentioned admin users. So if I go into the people section here, you see we have employees and we have clients. Now there is a pretty big distinction here. So client users are external users. These are not most of the time in your organization. These accounts are ones that you're collaborating with. They don't have the full ShareFile feature list. They have very limited access to basically just view and collaborate with you on any projects or any folders and files that you've given them. They're not going to have any way to upload documents to share out to someone or send documents for e-signature or things of that nature, set up workflows. So the employee user is really the meat of ShareFile. Those are your licensed users. They have access to all the features that they're given permissions to. Versus an admin. An admin here, I'm logged in as an admin. Admins are going to have more account-specific configurations and access. So you can see under here, under admin settings, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but we have a lot of things that we can do. We can change the company branding. We can look at notification histories and run reports, all the way down to how users log in, the security around password length and two-factor authentication, things like that. So really there's, if you look at it, there's kind of four users. There's a client external, there's an employee, that's the everyday, day-to-day employees, and then there's the admins. And then also we touched on earlier, there's the super admins, or the super users, I'm sorry. And those are users that don't really have admin privileges on the account. They can't make changes, but they can access all the files and folders on an account. And so going through some of these settings here as a client user, let me switch over to my client view. And you can see here that my view is very limited, and I don't have really much settings other than my own. So within personal settings, you have edit profile, so they can just change their display name, their company, change their password, set up email aliases, and also change their email notifications. Two-step verification, if you do have this enabled on your external users, that will be featured here. And this is also where employee users can set their two-step verification as well. They can add additional numbers, add authenticator apps, things like that. Advanced connections, this is going to be where you have your FTP settings, or if you're using WebDAV, those details will be there. And then my apps and devices will be your most recent login devices. If you're logging in from a web interface, or if you have an Android or iPhone that you're logging in from, those will show up here. And like when John logged in, he said he wanted to trust that computer so he doesn't get notified about the two-factor as much. Those computers will be here. And if you wanted to revoke a machine from that, this is where you'll go. All right. And next topic we'll go over here is the apps. So at the top right of any screen here, when you're logged into ShareFile, you'll have an app screen. So this is going to give you direct links to download the ShareFile plugins or applications that we have available to you. So we have a Windows section, we have a Mac section, excuse me, and these are the desktop applications, the Outlook plugins. We also have links down here for our ShareFile for Gmail. That will link you to the Chrome store. Same thing with the apps for Mac. We have mobile applications that you can access your account. And we also have third-party integrations here. So third-party integrations, we do have Salesforce and QuickBooks, where you can add, if you want to collaborate with contacts from those, you can connect them there. We have Office Online integration, and then some others that are listed down here below. So this is a great place to go if you want to download those tools for your desktop computer. I actually find that the ShareFile for Windows application is a great and powerful tool. if you're used to working in Windows. We have some other webinars that kind of go through how to set that up and use it, but I definitely highly recommend checking that out. And the last thing we'll touch on here is the Resource Center. So again, wherever you're at in ShareFile, there will be this button down at the bottom right here with our new logo. And the Resource Center is really kind of your one-stop shop to get support, learn what's going on with ShareFile, and to learn a little bit. So we do have our Getting Started links here. These are really just basics. Just like we're kind of going over today, you'll have some topics there that you can go back and view. What's new? These are things that are coming down the pipeline with ShareFile. So things that are just released. You see here we have Outlook Online that we just released, and you can get the add-on or some more information about that. Support articles. These will be direct links to our support page. And I'll show you that in just a second. And then how-to videos. We have some on the dashboard under tutorials. We have some basic, more advanced tutorials, but these will give you just some more literature to go through and view at a later time. So that's a great place for you to go. I also wanted to just highlight our sharefile.com/help-center. And this is, you can search it through Google, ShareFile Help Center. This is going to be a great place as well to go to get links to our product documentation page. So we're constantly updating this currently. It's got new branding on it. And we're taking a lot of documents from our Knowledge Center, which was previously on the Citrix side. We're taking a lot of those documents and we're kind of touching them up, updating them with new branding and information, and we're moving them over to our Doc Center. So this link here will bring you right to it. And I just want to shout out to the What's New page here. We're really trying to keep this updated. You can see ShareFile threat detection alerts, November 6th. That was just yesterday. So we're really trying to keep our customers informed as to new releases that are coming out. We'll go back here. Getting started. This is going to be a great place to go if you want to learn more, look at previous webinars, and I'll show you more of those in a second. We go back here, a status page. This is important to know if you are experiencing some connectivity issues to ShareFile and you want to know if it's not just you. The status page will give you a good indicator of what's going on and if there are any scheduled maintenance windows to know about. So the last thing I want to touch on is we are expanding our YouTube page. This is our ShareFile YouTube page. You can search at ShareFile on YouTube. Google search it. All of our previous webinars are going to be posted up here, and we're really trying to take the time to make this environment as helpful as it can be and give you videos from webinars and also just quick tips and quick videos to just get you started.
And Greg, while you're there, can you actually go back to the playlists and pull up our tutorials? It's under the how-to playlist. So the second one in.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
It should show you the list.
Let me see.
Oh, view full playlist.
Oh, view full playlist.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, so this is going to give a lot of videos, and you'll see some familiar faces here. I know myself and John are on a couple of these, but some of them are very short. They're quick. They're to the point. If you have a question, we've got a video for it most likely. So, all right.
Thank you, Greg. And we're really adding more to the tutorials list as well. So we just added one last week, and we're working on another one for security, like in terms of like the topic is security. So very excited. You can always, stay tuned to our YouTube channel for, more videos that we're uploading. And like Greg had said on the What's New page, that is a great place to go to stay tuned in on what we're doing and all the changes that we're making because, or all the new features that we're coming out with, because there is a lot of change, a lot of new things are happening, and we want to include you.
Sure. So it's saying, can you request documents from clients in the project section? Is there also a way to link documents from the projects folder and the shared folder? So You can request documents from the project section. It would be a document request, and that's built right into the folder, or I'm sorry, the project section. So once you create a project, you'll go to document requests there. You'll create a document request. You can set up individual items that you need. You can also do a bulk import of a list of items, and it really just accelerates that that request list process for you. And if there's a way to link documents from the projects folder and the shared folder. So these projects, when they're shared out, if it's an external client, they'll have access to everything within that project. There won't really be a need to send it out. It works a little bit different than sending a file out, like a share link or something like that. But within the comments section, you can link to certain files. So if you do, let's say, have a question about something that a client is uploading, you can specify which file in particular you're referring to.
Yeah, I think that was a really good one. And projects is something, if you don't already have it, you don't see like on the screen that I have, that is with our premium offering. Just like kind of Greg described, it's a great space to kind of fulfill things that you're needing or have tasks to do for a particular project. It could be that you're working like in an accounting situation where, hey, you have a client that you're working with, you need to request all their W-2 forms for the past 3-4 years. You can easily do that with, of course, document request and make that list. You can auto-generate that list from an Excel sheet. There's lots of things to automate this from that kind of combines a lot of what ShareFile does already, but kind of neatly packs it into a space that you and your client can work off of, or other employees to keep in task with things, because of course you can create tasks and document requests, and you can keep files within the project. So it's a nice little space that we've added in to, again, allow for a single use, or there's a determining factor at the end of the day that you need to accomplish, and all those things kind of combine into that project. I'll take that next one here from Tom. When I first created a folder, I was able to add a new user to access the data. When I came back later, I was not able to share it with someone who was not already listed user. I tried to do this through the people section. Is that correct? So I think what Tom is getting at is more so around the way we add people that are already in your system. So, and just to kind of recap, in a folder, just like Greg was showing, I'm going to add people that are in my ShareFile account so they can access it. Like I showed you before, I was able to singly share a document or request a document from somebody, and that's just kind of a one-off thing, right? If you wanted to do that, but giving them access to a folder will give them access based on their permission to all the data that is within the folders and the other data that's in here. So I think what Tom was kind of getting at, there's a couple different places that you can add people if they're not already in your instance. So if I added somebody, I could start typing in their name and they'll show up like John Doe. Here is my test account. I can add them because they're already in the system. But say, for instance, I had somebody where they didn't already have an account. It's a new client. You can have use the create new user option, and you could fill this in. Whenever, as a ShareFile user, we always require the email address, the first name and the last name, optional for the company that you're dealing with. But once I actually bring them in, I'm going to set the permission that you want to give them, and I'm going to add it. So once I add that person, it will actually send off a notification, and they'll get that notification email that you're being added to a folder. And if they don't already have that account, it will step them through creating an account first before they can access that folder. Likewise, though, if you wanted to add people outside of that, if you had, say, a managed client permission on your account, you can go down to the people section, browse clients, add a client from here, just like the same information before. There's a couple other things that you don't necessarily need to do, but once I add that user, they'll again get that notification, set up their account, and then I can go back into my shared folder once that account is created for them, and then add them in here as an individual since they're already in the system. So a couple of different ways to approach it. But yeah, if they're not already in there, you can create the account from here, or you can set them up before you add them to a folder under the people section in the browse client section here.
Annabella has a question about notifications. So the question is, I get notifications all the time. You want to know how to switch them off. So, John or Greg, can either of you answer that?
Yeah, so since I'm already kind of in here under the personal settings, you can come up to here, and when you scroll down here under your personal settings, so again, settings, personal settings, you'll see email frequency. But first off, I just wanted to show this because this does default to in real time. In real time is, again, just that. If, say, for instance, I was on a folder and I got upload alerts, so anybody that uploads something to that folder, I'm going to get alerted. If it's set to real time for your user, I will immediately get that notification. It does happen a lot of time where, yeah, you might be on a lot of folders that have notifications on them, especially for uploading. So a good thing is you could set the frequency. So for instance, I always kind of like this one is a once a day. So if you get a lot of those emails, you could do once a day email frequency. So what that does is it will actually send you at the end of the day a report of all the notifications you got in your account with ShareFile. This is good because then you can actually just kind of at the end of the day see up, client A, client B, they uploaded to that folder. So now I can go check those documents, later tomorrow if I wanted to. But again, I think this is the best route to go in terms of just help consolidating, because in reality, ShareFile is very big with notifications. We want to be sure that you're alerted in what's going on. So you necessarily don't want to turn off notifications altogether. But say, for instance, if you did want to turn off notifications, I'm just using a notification here like in a folder. So say, for instance, we had our people section. I myself, so actually, let me pick a better one. I'll go back over to customer one here. And under the people section here, if I say, for instance, I was cord and I didn't want to get those upload alerts, if you already had that checked, I can turn those off so you don't get those upload alerts. That's usually the most frequent one I hear a lot of is, hey, I don't want to get those notification alerts when somebody uploads something. Of course, you as the user, depending on who added you, they can actually turn those off if you wanted to. But I feel, again, under the consolidation period, again, under your email notification section, change that over to either once a day or twice a day. So this way it will divvy these notifications up if you're constantly getting them.
Desiree had a question about supporting 2FA or token identification instead of requiring links sent to external users to verify without the need to have an account. So we don't have any type of PIN code or password to access a file. It's really, if you have a public link that's completely anonymous, you can require a name and email address or the login with an actual account. So we don't have a way to set something up like that now.
It could also be talking about expiration. We do have what we call retention policies or expiration policies as well within ShareFile. We do have a global retention, and this is more administrative than anything. But say, for instance, I created a folder. I'm the owner of the folder, so that will give you rights to click on the little 3 dots here and come down to edit advanced folders. There's a couple things here to note for expiration is that you can actually set a date for this to basically implode, if you will. If you set it so that, hey, on the 8th, say tomorrow, I want this to expire, this is just going to fully delete the folder all in all. Basically, any of the data that's in there, it will delete it. But you also do have a retention policy on the folder. So again, you do have a global retention. Again, that's more administrative. We're not going to get too much into that today, but you do also have individual folder retention. And again, that's by default, it's unlimited, meaning it will never automatically delete. And also, of course, the expiration will never go away. But if, say, for instance, when I created my folder, I only want things to last in here for after 2 days. So when I set that, as you can see, you'll have a couple things, notifications that people will see that have access to this is that I set the expiration for tomorrow to be deleted. But also I set a retention as well. These both can interact definitely to each other. It's always going to take the most restrictive in terms of when it deletes that data. But once I set that retention policy, items that are newly uploaded to the folder will expire after the 2 days that they exist in the folder itself. So again, we talk a lot about this more on like folder management in some of our previous webinars, but these are really good to talk about because yes, if I'm a folder owner and I create that, say for instance, the company policy, or maybe say I'm working with somebody and their policy is that they can't have data be seen after so many days or a date, I can, as the owner, come in here and set those expirations. But if you did make an oops, I can always set that back by default there, and then that will take those options out. So no harm, no foul if that's the case, but just be careful with those because again, when they do delete, they will go to your recycle bin, which you have down here. But within your recycle bin, those items will remain as a maximum of 45 days before they're fully deleted from ShareFile. But I think that was a good point about the expiration that I think we skipped over there.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. And we just had a couple questions pop right in. So Peter asks, so a folder permission is different from a direct link?
That is correct. So a direct link can go directly to it can go directly to a folder, but it can also go directly to a file. So a folder permission is going to be requiring login, right? So someone who logs in and accesses a dashboard to view the folder that's shared with them. So it's a little bit more broader of access, sharing a folder to someone versus a direct link, which can be used for one particular file. Or like one particular upload section.
And that's what I was kind of showcasing in the beginning and creating a share link and also a request link. Those are pretty much one-offs, right? I can create as many as I want, but necessarily based on the permission that I give them, they might not need to have a ShareFile account. Remember, you do have anonymous options, meaning I could set that link to be anonymous instead of requiring them to sign in. So then they wouldn't require to have a ShareFile account if it's anonymous, because then I'm not requiring them to log in first to their ShareFile account to access that file. So yeah, I think that's good. That's awesome clarity. Thanks, Greg.
Wonderful. And John, do you see Desiree's question?
Yeah, so to prevent oops, can a company have a shared account for multiple employee accounts with one admin? I mean, the consensus on this is really it's a one-to-one situation, right? One license to one account or one person that's interacting with it. Also with like one admin, we have seen, of course, people have a shared account with one administrator to be able to do that. I think those are kind of one-off situations, though, where if you're managing a large amount of folders, or say you're managing employees and you're deleting employees and you need to reassign data, we've seen where people have created a kind of a centralized admin account that multiple admins do log into. But in general, with ShareFile, it's always usually a one-to-one ratio in terms of user licenses. And the big problem with that, even outside of that, is you start to lose traction or understanding of who's doing what. When you're going back to report something on an interaction that somebody had, if it was a shared email and multiple people have access to it within ShareFile, you don't really know who's actually logging in when you're doing reporting. We report everything within ShareFile, to when I logged in, to I share a file, to when I uploaded something and downloaded something. Things like that are critical. So if there was an audit that needed to be done, I can then go back in reporting and say, hey, John Doe logged in at this time, shared this file out of this folder. So this way I have breadcrumbs to go back and be able to see the motion of what John Doe did. If you had shared accounts like that, again, that's very difficult to actually be able to track that, because then everyone can point their fingers to the other person because everyone has access to that account, right? So the notion there, just like any kind of SaaS product, is typically it's a one-to-one. Be sure that user is unique to that user account. And this way, again, for reporting and auditing reasons, we always have a way to be able to track their activity.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
All right. Just doing a quick time check. All right. 5 minutes to 1. I'm sure that there were questions that have already come in and been answered about our signatures. But John, if you could just give a quick, little once over on the signatures for the customers that do have that feature.
Sure. So we do have a e-signature functionality within ShareFile, and this is just like any kind of e-signature service out there. But the great thing with the e-signature that we have is it's fully integrated with ShareFile. So as you can see, if you have the premium offering of our license, you'll typically have a signature section on the left-hand side here. Now that can open up, and there's a slew of different options to be able to send a signature out as a document and get it placed. But what the big integration that I love to showcase here is when I'm in a folder, I can actually send a document out for signature. Say, for instance, like it's a new hire doc confirmation email that I need to send out. And if I click send for signature, that will start out the process of me preparing a document to be sent out to get signed. And from here, it's all wizard driven, meaning it will take you through each step to be sure that you have the required information, so forth like this. Like I need to send Mr. John Doe, of course, an email, a document that he needs to sign. These contacts come from ShareFile, so I can actually see it. And from here, I can always go and place my fields here. And of course, this all can be templated when you have constant signatures to be sent out into the same document, like an onboarding document like this. But for this instance, I'm just generating this from new. I can always turn on field detection, and this makes dropping in my fields super, super easy that require, say, a signature, a text field, and a date. But as easy as that, and as you can see, we have tons of options. I'm sure I can spend an hour talking through them, but from here, I have my fields laid out. I can add some security around the actual document that's being signed. I love to use the passcode because the passcode will give you a PIN and you can give them that PIN. So this prevents anyone else from kind of interjecting and be able to sign themselves. So a lot of different other security options here. But when I send that document out, John Doe will actually get that in his email. He'll be able to see and click on that link and go through it just like he would see here. As me as the initiator, I can see the history of when it actually got sent out. So when John Doe goes and signs that, it comes back to me. The great thing about that integration is it will come back as a signed PDF, like you see here. And this will include all of the signed information and the audit trail from Mr. John Doe that we have here. So as you can see, he signed it, printed it, dated, and then below here is really what you want. Is this gives you all of the auditing of what occurred, including their IP address of who signed it. We do have the ability to actually see how many signers were in there and the sequence that it took. Of course, when it was viewed, when it was signed at. So you have really everything you need here to really validate that signature on that document. And all it took was a couple clicks for me to send it right through ShareFile from a folder, from a file that it's already existing. So this way I don't have to jump to another, say, solution, prep the doc, send it out, and then keep it somewhere that I'm not too sure where it'll be kept and how long it will be kept for. So the integration with the e-signature within ShareFile is only getting better. We are actually going to be fitting all this in within ShareFile because, as you saw, it did open another tab, but now we're actually striving to make this as integrated as possible so you're not even leaving this screen. You'll see some of those changes coming up. But again, as you saw, it was a very simple, very easy way to get a document sent out to somebody, get it signed, have it sent back to the same folder I initiated it from, and then I have evidence that it was actually signed. And I can keep this here forever, or I can put this into another folder for archiving if I will. So yeah, e-signature stuff is really awesome. Definitely take a look at it. If you don't already have it, reach out to your account owners, take it for a spin. We have tons of different webinars we've done in the past, so check out that events and webinar page because we do have a giant playlist of different signature demos and webinars that we did to showcase the power of our e-signing solution. Awesome. Yeah, thank you again, everybody, for joining. Hope this gave you a little bit more insight to ShareFile and getting started with it. Again, please check out those events and webinars page because we have a ton of new ones coming up. And for the new year, we have a lot of cool ones that we are working on. And your feedback is critical. So anything that you can provide feedback-wise and what you want to see in these webinars is going to help us of course, paint this picture even better for you in terms of providing knowledge and information. So again, appreciate all your time today. Greg, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, thank you for joining today, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.